Hi, this is True Diligence,
PI,
proud sponsor. If you're looking for a job
in the cannabis industry,
you know how fierce the competition is. Think of the character you'll demonstrate by showcasing your credentials at the beginning of the hiring process. A simple yet affordable way to show employers you're the clear choice. Visit our website at truediligence.com.
Move your resume to the top.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome back, my fellow cannapreneurs. Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project. I am Brainstorm, here bringing you once again your weekly podcast from the CCP studios high up in Denver, Colorado. I'm here exploring the business side of this newly emerging Colorado economy, here focusing on the business, the patient, the retailer, even to the geek in the garage tinkering around, creating that next innovation that will lead this industry. This is the first platform to let fellow cannapreneurs just like you and you and you and you build sustainable business models while living the lifestyle. Hey, what did you think of last week's show? Was that the type of products that is a perfect fit for this industry? The anonymous bags. Did you check out the website? There's places out there locally here in Colorado and on the web where you can find one. And I want to encourage everybody to look into it because it's safety and regulation that makes our industry better. So don't look at it like, yeah, they're making us lock our stuff up and put it in bags. Let's look at it as, finally, entrepreneurs are stepping forward to help us maintain a better regulated industry. Now, if you didn't hear that interview, go back and take a listen. It was last week's The Anonymous Bags. Get a quick little up-to-date preview on our short-term memory flashback relapse right now, just a few minutes, and then check out the website. And if you don't have a bag and you're here in Colorado, you're going to need one because they won't let you leave a store unless you have a locking bag. And if you're mobile, you're going to need something that's also mobile, secure, tamper-proof, smell-proof, and just a good carrying bag. Everybody needs a good bag to carry stuff in. Hey, I really enjoyed it. So here you go. Take a quick listen, and then we'll move on to this week's show.
John Patterson, Anonymous Bags.
Coincidentally, just the night before, I was online looking at backpacks that were smell-proof and waterproof. So it was very coincidental that I stumbled across your site in that, and then I started looking at everything. I was like, well, there you go. There's somebody who's thinking about what I think the average person is thinking about, like me, who's sitting at home with a 6-year-old daughter going, how can I make my house less stinky?
Outstanding.
So thank you.
I've spent 20 years in the luggage industry and with different companies doing different things, from cooler bags to gun cases to luggage.
And then one day I said, I have an idea.
I've had a few ideas, but actually about 2 years ago, I came up with a case. It's one of these here. You know, you're entitled to your privacy and you have to protect it.
Well, was there a moment? Was there a tipping point? Did something happen in your life where all of a sudden you went full focus on an anonymous bag?
I think the original ideas carried through. Once I understood some of the things that were happening with the marijuana industry here in Colorado, both medical and recreational, and the regulations, realized there would be a demand. I thought there would be a demand for the product, not only serving as an exit package under Colorado law, which you have to leave, all product has to leave in a child-resistant container of some sort,
right,
of which mine are one kind. I do want it to be private.
You know, it's my business. And even if you think you know what you know and you may be right, you still don't need to know.
I love that. One of my taglines is, my business is in bags, but what you put in them is yours.
Well, absolutely. And I got hit with this just the other day for the first time. Last week, a person asked me if I had my bag with me, and I was completely confused by what she was talking about. And she charged me $2.50 for for basically a supersized Ziploc bag. So it's not just the lock you're getting by, it's the bag itself. And it looks kind of like a cooler bag.
It is. It's similar in some ways to like shopping totes that for refrigerated foods that are so popular. It is not airtight.
It's human smell proof, but maybe not animal smell proof.
Absolutely. The industry does have a stigma, and it's going to for a long time. It's going to take decades for it's as mainstream as alcohol or tobacco for whatever reasons those are, which I think are the closest comparisons.
Yeah.
And it's very generational and regional. What's the new normal in Colorado is not the normal in the rest of the nation. But I feel like I'm making a positive contribution. I do believe that putting some controls in place is good and smart, and let's, like I say, do this in an adult way. And I think it's actually a safer outcome than alcohol will ever be. It's a subjective thing, but we're promoting family values, and especially to a lot of people in the medical marijuana industry. This is their hierarchy of priorities: is to keep this stuff safe and treat it as a medicine.
Yeah. Right.
A good assortment of our product is Botanicare in Thornton, BOTANACARE.com. First of all, web is www.anonymousbags.com.
There you have it, John Patterson from the Anonymous Bags. Maybe you're thinking, well, that sounds like a good idea. Or, hey, I have an idea that's pretty similar to that. It doesn't take much to reach out to me. You can get me anywhere: Facebook, email, webpage, Tumblr, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes. It's all out there. But if you have a business or an idea or just some thoughts that you think you need to share with the audience, contact me. Let me know. I'll get you on the air just like everybody else that you've been hearing. I want to hear from you. So let's discuss these issues. Let's discuss the issue of health. Let's talk about legal issues. Let's talk about what's going on with food and edibles. Growing technology in general. I want to learn about everything there is cannabis and then some. And I have a feeling that there's many, many more people out there that have ideas we haven't even thought of, and you're just sitting on them. So don't be shy. Pick up the phone, pick up the keyboard, reach out. I'm here waiting to get your voice on the air. Feeling guilty about a time with cannabis? Get it off your chest and confess it on Cannafessions, your public forum to absolve your soul.
New voice message, Thursday, 3:09 p.m.
Hi, this is Chris, and this is my Cannafession. So about 20 years ago, I was a teenager, and my stepdad used to smoke. He didn't know we knew. The whole family knew. And he used to keep his stash under the seat of his Jeep out in the garage. And one day, my friends and I went out there, and we stole it from him. And we never said anything. And we knew that he knew it had been stolen because we watched him furiously looking for it. And he could never find it, but he was unable to confront anybody because he was keeping it a secret. And we never confessed to him that we knew. So I guess 22 years later, gotta say, sorry, Dad, we got your stash.
And that was Cannafessions. If you have a confession to make, contact me via Facebook or the website at cannabiscommunityproject.com. And there you have it, Cannafessions. Hey, if you have something you need to get off your chest, funny or serious, doesn't really matter, give me a call. Let's get it on the air. Let's get it out to the world and let other people know what's going on in your mind of guilt. Now, you don't have to be guilty. We've had many Cannafessions of people just telling funny stories and little incidences of times in their life something that they just like to confess, just for the fun of it. You can do it too. Send me an email. I'll set you up with the phone number. We can record it. You don't even have to use your name. Nobody cares about your name. Just come up with 30 seconds to a minute of a little story of a time with cannabis. We'll present it like a confession, and we'll get it on Cannifessions. Pretty simple. Let's move on now to this weekend news, Twin News. You know what's going on here. Aggregating the best of social media, scrolling the Facebook, the Reddit, the Twitter, everything else in between, finding all the articles about cannabis and what we can. So let's quickly get into it. Twin News, this weekend news.
Good news!
Here we go. First up, the Smokers Club posting the key to Edible 101, decarboxylation. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. Hey, if you don't know what that is and you're making edibles, you're going to want to learn about it. Go to our Facebook. At the top of the Facebook, we have a pinned video from our friends over at cannibals.com showing us the easy steps for using it on edibles. It's for consistency and makes things so much better. Who doesn't want better edibles? Marijuana Policy Project, Senate to vote on medical marijuana amendments. Rand Paul and Cory Booker team up to protect state medical marijuana programs in the Senate. Learn about that at MPP. Cannabis law reform, cerebral palsy, and medical marijuana. Seth Green, a vocal medical marijuana patient activist from Tennessee, yeah, not that Seth Green from Hollywood, this other one, describes his life with cerebral palsy, MS, and how cannabis helped. Powerful stories. We've had a couple patients on the show, and we're going to have a couple more coming up. But please learn about this because the recreational market's getting all the attention. Let's not forget how it got started. Alzheimer's could be caused by loss of natural cannabis in the brain. So we know cannabinoids, the natural receptors in the brain, they're almost by God himself to receive the cannabinoids, are finally coming around to the scientists to find out what really is going on. Read about this article. This is a good one from Cannabis Law Reform and London Cannabis Club sharing about Alzheimer's. California Cannabis Hemp Initiative 2016. Thanks for the likes, and please check out the wording. We need to raise $1 million to pay for the professional petitioners. California Cannabis Hemp Initiative 2016. So we need to support other states. We need to support other states in hemp and medical and everything else because like any real community, it's not just about what's going on here in Colorado. It's about what's going on in the world. And hemp is going to be the industrial part of this that shows everybody where the legitimate business is that does not involve recreational smoking or any other forms of getting high. So check out the California Initiative for Hemp 2016. Moms for Marijuana International posting a photo of cannabis oil or hashish oil. We're not really sure what it is, but the quote itself speaks powerful in its few words. We do not need to find the cure for cancer. We need to legalize the cure for cancer. Think about that one. Natural Cannabis Industry Association, the second piece from PBS NewsHour, examines the growing cannabis market and features NCIA members and aliases and allies, the Arch View Group, Electrum Partners, Marijuana Policy Project, Harborside Health Center, Cerna Incorporated, Apex Supercritical, and a few others. Recreational marijuana is legal in Colorado and Washington state, and although it's still illegal under federal law, more states are considering the move, setting up the stage for potential gold rush to come. Following the money, but I don't think they quite get it. Money alone is not powerful enough. And it seems counterintuitive, but it's so true. It's all about health. Wait until those senators and mayors and governors and all the other powerhouses have daughters, sons, aunts, uncles, moms, and dads get sick. And then see how fast they move. Oregon Cannabis News, former Secretary of State and potential frontrunner for the 2016 presidential election, has announced that she supports medical cannabis and is open to states experimenting with recreational cannabis legalization. Yeah, you guessed it, Hillary Clinton. Well, all right, whatever. I mean, there's not much that we're going to believe or not believe, and I guess wherever the tide is flowing is where professional politicians are going to put their support. Show Me Cannabis posting, every dollar in police hours spent on non-violent drug offenders is money and time not spent on real crime. Police should focus on real crime, like rape, instead of ruining people's lives with an arrest record for pure possession. In addition to voting to stop DEA medical marijuana raids, the Senate could also vote to stop ATF harassment on patients who want to possess firearms. Medical marijuana strange political bedfellows. Progressive libertarians rejoice a new bill being introduced into the Senate would stop the federal government from meddling with patient gun rights. That's right. Start messing with the guns, and then all of a sudden everybody's a libertarian. Should Denver police be allowed to smoke weed? Show Me Cannabis posting an article. If officers with the Denver Police Department were permitted to smoke weed as an alternative to drinking booze, perhaps the department would have less trouble with alcoholic cops. Figure that one out. So who does have the authority, ultimate authority over your body? Is it the state? Is it a doctor? A relative? Or is it you? I think for most people this would be a no-brainer. However, it seems that there is a portion of the population that believes lawmakers know what's best for your body. Regulating what you can do and can't do with your body is a direct action of aggression against free individuals in the world. No, we're not talking about abortion. We're talking about drug use. You alone should have the power to decide what you eat and drink, whether it's good for you or not. I mean, they allow you to scarf down McDonald's burgers and soft drinks to your desire and induce a slow death of diabetes or organ failure. But smoking a plant that actually benefits your body is deemed as just plain wrong. When are we going to stop beating this dead horse and start forcing our politicians to recognize it? Because I'm tired of repeating the same lines over and over that everybody knows. But we have to keep doing it. We have to keep doing it until they get it, until they finally get it. We're not women talking about abortion rights. We're individuals, supposedly free individuals living in a supposedly free country, but yet we can't do anything to ourselves that only affects ourselves. And we can't do anything to ourselves that has no science behind it showing there is anything negative. And for all you clucks out there that keep quoting well, it's smoke. You can't put smoke into your body without being harmful. You're just morons, all right? You're morons that know nothing about health and nothing about the studies that are actually being conducted. It is not as simple as to say, well, smoke is bad and that is that. Doesn't matter what you're smoking. If you put smoke in your body, you're doing something bad for you. Figure it out, folks. Figure it out. Because one day you're going to have to stand before somebody and be judged for how you've affected other people's lives. And how you've affected those lives negatively will come back. It will come back in strong karma in ways you've never seen. Stop messing with people's lives. Focus on your own damn family. Focus on your own life. Focus on your own desires of what you want to do or not want to do. But stop meddling with other people's lives. I don't like to have to read these articles over and over, repeating the same information, but I feel like if I stop, then things aren't going to get better. So we have to keep repeating it. We all do. Right now, you listening to me right now, you have to repeat this. You have to repeat this to your family, your friends, strangers on the street. You have to become an activist. You cannot be a passive smoker. You cannot be an in-the-closet user. You have to come out of the closets. You have to let it be known what you do, and you have to be proud of it, because if you're going to do it, you might as well be proud of it. This is not heroin. This is not cocaine. There is nothing to be ashamed of, and there is nothing you are doing wrong to yourself. So the next time you hear misinformation, disinformation, disgusting information being thrown around out there, What you need to do is just simply tell somebody to stop. Stop spreading the lies. Stop spreading the propaganda. And stop getting involved in my life. That's all the news you need to know this week. And that was Twin News, This Week in News, your weekly source for up-to-date canna business. Hey, cannapreneurs, this week's show is sponsored by Dairy Berry's Recording Studio, located in Arvada, Colorado, with affordable rates. Mark is well experienced and will make your show, music, or any audio you have sound great. Take a look at dairyberriesrecordingstudio.com.
Say what you want, I know what you want. I see right through you. It's crazy. I ain't about to play with these. I ain't about to shake the hands of these snake ass. I'ma let the yada dice sing like Alicia do. Ike Azu, YF, who else? Yeah, we heating you. Better yet, treating you. What's some of the box state's finest? The only reason to hate cause I'm steadily grinding. But all that dish up there, I don't pay it no mind, man. Cause my mind, I'm always focused on grinding. All of those fake smiles, all of those fake hugs. I realize I don't need your fake love.
Gun sing like a leash. Getting cheese like a pizza. Drink liquor, smoke, you and you take love. We don't need your fake love. We don't need your fake love. Nah, we don't need your fake love. Fake smiles and your fake hugs. Say what? We don't need your fake love.
Paying my dues to the older crews, praying I'm making the best moves when I'm letting go of loose ties. They take it personal, so they personalize their Facebook posts against mine. 100 people showing love on YouTube, and I'm thinking you subscribe, but I'm thinking you're the one that's hitting the dislike. When I'm ripping the mic so nice, giving it life. You see me at night, you're buying my drinks and being so nice. I know it's hurting your grip, cause you ain't leaving a tip. A 9 to 5 ain't. The stress at your job is making you trip. You're trying to improv and play me without a script. But when you're down, I always get a phone call. Text message, Twitter mention. If you got a problem, tag me in it. Calculating my younger minutes. We're living through my decisions written in penship. I moved on to something different. My closet is empty. We are no longer intimate.
Gun sing like a leash. Getting cheese like a pizza. Drink liquor, smoke you, and we take love. We don't need your fake love. We don't need your fake love.
The good news is you're fired. That's right. We have an interesting take on today's show. We're stepping back to the Cannabis Commodities Exchange, talking with Sokan Shah. You may remember him from episode 18, Finding Equilibrium with the Cannabis Commodities Exchange. Our follow-up, though, is not about the business today. It's about his personal life. He had a change in careers that was forced upon him by corporate America. When they found out his side business, the up-and-coming Commodities Exchange, was just something that they personally just did not like and did not agree with, and thus did not approve his request to operate an outside business, essentially forcing him out of his job and his company. So today's show, we're going to talk about this deeply and somewhat seriously, because there's going to be many more out there where this happens to them, and you may be in a situation right now where it's happened to you. What do you do when you're confronted by an employer about this industry? What do you do when you have to admit what you're involved in and what you do? Well, as we learned from the 3 lessons that we determined, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. Have a backup plan and make sure everything you do is of the highest quality, so the value you bring to the table is far, far more important than your proposal of outside work activities. So listen to this one, because you may have some tips and hints for others, and you may know some individuals that need to hear this episode. But remember, being fired is not the worst thing in your life. Failing to pursue your own dreams and aspirations is far more of a hell to live in than a temporary loss of employment. But we talked through it. We had a good strategy. We came up with some tactics for others to use when being confronted by employers. And this is a story that's just one of those good humanistic type stories. From being down and out to on top of the world, That's what this industry can do for you. And attitude truly is everything, but also having a close network of friends and associates that can help you through it is even better. And that's what we're going to do with Soham today. We're going to work through it, and we're going to make sure that he comes out of this on the other end as a winner. And that corporation, company, cubicle job that decided they didn't want an ambitious entrepreneur in their company, well, we'll know what they'll be in the future. They won't.
Nah, we don't need your fake love. I don't need it. Fake smiles and your fake hugs. We don't need your fake love.
So we're back at the Commodities Exchange for a follow-up interview, specifically for a specific event. We're not here today to talk about business. We already learned about the inner makings of Commodities Exchange. We're back here because just discrimination? Or no. What? No? What's the proper word we should use?
My professional career and my career as an entrepreneur came to a crossroads, and I was faced with a decision of which path I wanted to go down. Neither of them were necessarily wrong.
Okay. So let's remind people who you are and when we talked to you. I believe it was show number 18, Finding Equilibrium with the Commodities Exchange. I think the title was. So we're back.
Yep. So I'm Soham Shah with the Cannabis Commodities Exchange. I'm the COO.
So what happened? You remind us where you previously were working, your employment status, kind of what you were on track up to a week ago?
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago. So just kind of remind us where you were at, what you were doing aside from this business here. You held another full-time job.
Yeah, so I was working a normal work week for a fairly big company in the financial sector, a private company, and I was working in their IT department. Due to standard federal regulations of financial institutions, I had to disclose any outside business activity. And so, wanting to be compliant, I filled out the appropriate forms and let them know about this outside business. And they ultimately decided that it was either a conflict of interest and that they just didn't want to be associated in any way with the cannabis industry. So I was, I was left with a decision. I could either quit my work here at the Cannabis Commodities Exchange and focus on my professional career full time, or I could, take the startup plunge and just resign from the corporate job and take whatever experience and skills I had learned there and come and bring that full time here at the Cannabis Commodities Exchange. And ultimately I felt that was a better use of my time, and that's really what I wanted to do. So I put in my 2 weeks and here I am.
So let's take it slow from the beginning, just so everybody understands, so they don't think we're coming back and talking to you just because you decided to do this full time versus that.
Yeah.
It was an actual moment that came to a head that required you to either leave or be asked to leave.
Exactly. Just that standard regulation by FINRA, the Financial Institution Regulatory Authority. And, anybody who works at any type of company that handles financial information may or may not have access to financial information like that, has to disclose outside business activity to make sure that, there's no conflict of interest. They don't have any incentive to manipulate numbers or steal information or anything like that. And as such, I have no reason to hide what I'm doing. I wanted to abide by the company policy and by the FINRA policy of verifying that outside business information. And they go so far as even if you're on, a homeowners association, you still have to let them know about it. And, 99% of outside business activity gets approved. But our company having an association to the cannabis industry, they made the decision that they didn't want to be associated with that, and that's not discriminatory or illegal or anything like that. They're well within their right as a private corporation to make that decision.
So you were for over a year working for this institution?
Almost a year, a little less than a year.
Almost a year, and then one day they called you into the office.
No, it was just we got to a point of after we launched here at the Cannabis Commodities Exchange, I felt that was the appropriate time that by the rules I had to disclose that information to them, and so I did.
So you went in, told your boss, and he had talked to you about something. I'm currently involved in another business.
Yeah, basically.
And you told him what it was. And
I explained clearly that we don't touch any product or anything like that. We just really provide a place for buyers and sellers to connect. And my boss isn't the one that made the decision. It was the legal compliance department of the company that would review that.
Lawyers. Goddamn lawyers. So when they asked you to leave, did they do it in such a way that pretty much said you'll be fired if you do not choose to resign on your own?
I mean, not exactly.
Okay.
They just told me that my request for, approval of outside business activity had been denied. And so I just, asked, I was like, all right, so where do we go from here? And they said, well, you can either quit that job or quit this job. And I mean, it was pretty well weighed out. I knew what would happen if they did deny that outside business activity. It wasn't like a surprise.
Right.
I knew what was going to happen in either case.
That sounds very, I mean, I guess to a lot of people that have never worked in a corporation, that sounds so controlling, almost to Orwellian.
The financial industry is still hesitant to get on board. I mean, even just look at any business in the cannabis industry, whether it's a dispensary or infused product lab or anything like that. They're constantly getting their bank accounts shut down, and that's just, even though they have some amount of permission from the federal government to do business with these small businesses, they still they make the decision at their own discretion, but they don't want to do business with those people. So I think it's just part of the industry. The financial industry always has been conservative.
I think it's just the rebel in me that there's just something about asking a company you work for permission to do something outside of that company. To me, it just seems very, very unnatural for my own personality.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that completely. From the flip side, if I had a side business doing financial planning or financial consulting with somebody, and I somehow, whether through business or IT or compliance or whatever it may be, if I worked for a financial company and I had access to trade information, then you could see where there is a huge conflict of interest. And that's why I said 99% of the time it's totally fine and they approve it, but it's just occasionally they see some type of issue or something that they just don't want to be associated with.
I definitely see the connection for the related services, but it's pretty clear that what you're doing here is not a financial-based business. You're not involved in advising, consulting, anything about finance. You're not accepting money to invest or do anything else. So to me, this purely seems like somebody just disagreed with what you were doing.
I mean, really, as a company, they've taken a stance, just like many commercial banks and credit unions have, but as a company, they don't want to be associated with, or in some cases, do business with, the cannabis industry.
Did you feel betrayed after being there a year, or
not really?
No,
not at all. Yeah. I mean, I knew that it was, like I said, I knew when I filled out the disclosure that the decision could go one of two ways. Either they would approve it and I would continue working there for a little longer, or they would deny it, and basically I would have to make a decision. And I really knew what that decision already was prior to filling out that form.
And if you hadn't filled out the form and they had found out, you would have been fired, basically, for not following.
I would have at least been disciplined. I don't know for sure if they would have just fired me right away. Then they would have reviewed it, and then they would have said, yeah, no, we don't want to be I don't know how that would have gone, but I think it would have been for sure worse if I had not disclosed it and somehow somebody found out about it.
Yeah. Is there any loss of a career or your education, any feeling that you've put in all the hours getting an education, degree based in finance, and you were working towards a corporation and now kind of out of it? Or is it a relief, kind of like, now the universe has made the decision for me? Now I know where to focus my time.
It's a little of each. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't spent a lot of my time in college preparing for a professional career. I went to a business school, but even while I was still in school, I had already made the decision that really the cannabis industry was the industry that I wanted to be truly a part of.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have any resentment or anything like that. It is kind of a relief, and I'm glad to have learned certain skills that I learned in working in a big corporation that I may not have learned just going solo down the startup path.
And you got a good solid year, which is a good amount of time. I mean, it's not a long amount of time, but it's better than a few months.
Yeah.
In that sense. And I assume you can still use the name on your resume and
I mean, I would like to think that I'd get a good reference from them. I worked hard even after giving them my notice.
Well, there was nothing of your parting from the company that would require them to say anything negative about you. I mean, you didn't do anything against the company per se. All you did was quit your position.
Yeah. So and I gave them notice, and I worked hard my last few weeks that I'd given them notice for. Hopefully they wouldn't feel any hard feelings about it either.
I would like to know, I mean, just even locally here in Denver, how many other people are in a similar situation, maybe not the exact situation, but I would like to really throw it out there and try to find out who else is out there, because you can't be the first person.
Probably
and
not.
You're not going to be the last. And it's going to be a choice that companies are going to have to make, all the way down to testing, UAs. What was the article we saw? The FBI is having to
reevaluate their marijuana testing
right, for their computer guys.
I think Comer's exact words were, we need to hire the best hackers, and some of these kids want to smoke weed on their way to the interview. I think that was an exact quote. I'm not 100%.
Well, it's been a while since I've gone to an interview smoking weed, but
might have been an exaggeration, but never know. I don't know what kind of hackers work for the FBI.
Well, I mean, I think this just really points to how ridiculous marijuana laws are specifically, because obviously, I mean, a couple weeks ago I was talking about sports, and we were talking about the best of athletes that we have in overwhelming percentages are using a drug that by all myth and stereotype should make you
lazy,
anti-athletic.
Absolutely.
I really like this idea that they need the best of the best and they smoke weed.
Yeah, exactly. I think that goes beyond just athletics. I think, I mean, Steve Jobs was pretty open during his life about his drug use, even beyond just cannabis, So I think it's just starting to come to light a little bit more, and people are more willing to say, yeah, I'm a cannabis user and I'm not a total, lazy person or a screw up or whatever other preconceived notions a lot of people have about the typical cannabis user.
Out of the closet, as
exactly
my guest on last week's show said. He said he relates it to coming out of the closet, in a sense. You're exposing yourself to the world,
absolutely,
and letting people know, this is who I am, this is what I do, regardless of anything else.
Yeah.
And, it's very good. It's very good. So what's the next step then? Is it just simply, all right, so I'm done with that part of my life. Now it's on to the commodities exchange full time, and no looking back.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like I said, I'm glad to have gotten some of the experience and skills that I did while I was working there, because I don't know when or if I would have had that experience in another way.
Mm-hmm.
But now, it's time to focus on the exchange full time, and some of our expansion plans are to get out to Washington relatively soon with their retail sales opening up.
Well, I like the idea, especially for myself, that you have two jobs and you're kind of debating, do I do both or do I do one or the other? So I think the real lesson that we should all take away here is don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
There'll come a time when it probably is better, and I think I can hopefully provide a lot more focusing on this one aspect full time, instead of having my time and my attention split between two different companies. So
right.
I think it can go both ways.
Actually, let me rephrase that. Don't put all your eggs in one basket if you're not in control of the basket, because putting all of your time into this business is basically putting your time into yourself. I mean, you're for the most part in control, and it's your business. When you're working for somebody else, then I would say what we take away is, if you're working for somebody else, make sure you have that secondary job position, possible career idea you've been tinkering with, always on the back burner, because when you're working for somebody else, just like what happened to you, you can easily find yourself not working for somebody else. So I like that, because I've always had a number of different jobs kind of throughout my life. And I think as a result of that, when I've lost jobs, I've never felt that crushing kind of that heart sinking, like, oh, my whole life is destroyed. This is everything I have.
Yeah.
I've always felt like, oops, there's one piece of it that's done, but I still have these other ones that I can fall back on, and then I'll just fill in the gaps and make it up. So, I mean, whether you're talking about, investing or jobs or anything else, I think that's just a good life lesson, is
a hedge a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. If you're gonna go and work for a corporation, maybe have a little idea that you've been thinking of something that you can do a quick registration with the state, make up a business card, and even if you do nothing, it's there in the event that you need to instantly jump into another something. And as I learned this a couple years ago when I was applying for jobs, when you're in transition or when you have gaps, having your own company to fill in those gaps really helps. Rather than saying, "Ooh, from this time frame to this time frame, I was unemployed."
Yeah.
It's better to say, "I stopped working at this one, but I've been at this one since the last 3-4 years."
Yeah.
Even though nobody knows, I haven't really done anything with it. It's still registered under my name. I still have the business card. I still have the title on the resume. And it helps, I think, in all aspects to just say, career is a weird word. What does that mean to have a career? A little bit different than obviously, a lawyer where you kind of do a specialized training. And although I did hear a statistic the other day that the majority of people going through law school end up not practicing law. So,
well, I think a legal education is something that's valuable to
kind of like a business education.
It's it's something that somebody who works in some type of executive position or anywhere really where they deal with contracts or anything like that would definitely benefit from that.
When you were telling your boss or submitting the paperwork for this, if they would have said, "Okay, we support you," do you think you would really be better off? I almost think you would be even more
Not
hindered.
necessarily, yeah.
Because now you would get approval, which means you're almost obligated to keep working for them now, which means you can't really put full time into this business, which ultimately is going to be your business. Yeah. The bread and butter.
So, I guess everything happens for a reason, right? Now we're here and push full steam ahead with CCX, just as all the partners have been doing while I was working at the other company.
Yeah. So I think we should chalk this one up as a blessing, really.
Definitely.
It's kind of just the universe saying, hurry up and get on with what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Because you're wasting your time over at these other companies when ultimately we know where this is going to end up. I mean, was there ever really any thought that you weren't going to be eventually full-time doing this?
Not at all. I knew it was inevitable. Just was facilitated a little bit more.
Right. So in a sense, if you would have hung out 2, 3, 4 years more at this other company, it would have been 2, 3, 4 years of not getting this one fully going. So I think this is a win for you, lose for them.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't determined who them is, so they don't know. I mean, this could be any financial company out there. What else? What else should we learn from this? The person that ends up in a similar situation from dropping a UA at work, or somebody who is specifically maybe outed in the sense of a boss finds them coming out of a dispensary, or a boss finds,
what was their boss doing at the dispensary?
Just driving by. That's why we need some VIP entrances at dispensary, so people don't have to go through the front entrance. But what can we take away from this other than obviously, better things will come if you're prepared?
I guess the bottom line is there's a chance if you work for a big company that they're not going to be totally receptive to our progressive way of life and progressive industry that we have here in Colorado and Washington and a handful of other states.
And there's, as far as I understand, I don't know, maybe the legal minds could help us better understand. As far as I know, companies pretty much have the same freedom to deny you employment, regardless of what you're doing is legal or illegal. It doesn't really matter. A company's kind of within their right to pretty much say, we don't want you working here.
And that applies to drug testing as well.
Does that apply to cigarette smoking?
They could. Theoretically, a company could probably, if they wanted to, make the argument that
we don't want smokers here, kind of deal. Yeah, because I haven't thought about that, because back in the days when I was working for corporations, it was always the 10-minute break, and it was called the smoke break. Yeah. Even though I didn't smoke, it was called the smoke break, and people would go out and smoke almost as if it were a right. So I'm wondering if that would work the same way, or if that exists.
That question is, and this is really where it's going to come to as cannabis use becomes more socially acceptable on a large scale. This is what's going to be the issue. A company could say you can't work here, or we'll fire you if we found out you had a beer on Saturday night, or if you smoke cigarettes, or whatever they want to do. But then the question is, how do they attract a competitive workforce if they're going to alienate such a large percentage of the population? And right now, people are willing to stop smoking or be discreet about their cannabis use on the weekend or whatever it may be, because this isn't quite so widely accepted. And at the point that happens, that's when the big companies are going to face that dilemma of, do we still test people for smoking a joint on the weekend? Is that really how we're going to attract the most competitive workforce? And that that's a decision that each company will make in its own time.
And now that I'm actually thinking about your situation, I'm thinking like, what would I do do if I were in the HR department and this request came across my board. And to me, this seems very short-sighted by the company in general in the big picture, because what they have here is an individual who's working for them, who's basically saying, hey, not only am I working for you, but I'm also the type of person who's looking to start businesses and start businesses in an industry that can be profitable and start businesses that are based around finance. So if I were the owner of a company, I would look at this as, this is a guy we might want to hang on to.
Yeah.
He seems pretty ambitious, and he seems like he has a lot of ideas, and he seems like he might have something going for him. But to me, a company taking the standard kind of HR approach of, just doing what they think is right, seems very short-sighted in the sense of who are the people and companies that are there to specifically say, hold on. Yes, he's working in the cannabis industry, but let's look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Do we want to get rid of a guy who's trying to start companies and make money and do things proactively? Is this the kind of guy we want to get out of our company?
And see, that's where the stigma is of that one word that we have in the name of our company, the word cannabis, and that still does carry a stigma to it, especially, like I said, in the financial industry, as any dispensary or probably other ancillary businesses have heard from big banks as well.
Well, let's change the name then. Let's come up with a complete new word.
That was something that we discussed when we first incorporated, and when we were in our early stages. And the decision that we made is that we will always do things by the book, and we will make sure our customers are compliant. And this here and everywhere else that we're going to be doing business is going to be part of a legitimate industry, and as such, we're not willing to hide behind some inconspicuous brand name or whatever it was.
I hate the idea of having to hide, because that's almost the same as basically say, oh, I think what I'm doing is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a decision that we as a group of partners made very early on. And it's something that, we're going to stick to. And, so, sometimes we deal with the consequences of that. I learned personally in this occasion, or on this occasion. And, I'm sure we'll see that as we go to other states, where maybe it's not quite so open-minded as Colorado or Washington or, wherever else.
Well, I mean, there's sweet revenge or just victory either way at the end, because as you become more successful, your former employers and others, they'll come back around, and you may be back in competition with them. Who knows one day what will happen with this company and how it grows and emerges and comes out into the world of finance and business. But I think there is sweet victory here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're not talking about, John Blow was fired from his job because he just showed up one too many times drunk, and that was all we could take, and we had to let him go. We're literally talking about a guy came to us and said he's trying to start other companies, so we let him go.
Well, once again, it's not necessarily, it's just that one word that carries all the stigma to it, because they do approve most other people's companies or HOA or whatever it may be that they're disclosing, but sometimes there's one word in the name of the company that draws a big red flag.
Well, if nothing else, I think we should just keep encouraging people to not be ashamed.
Absolutely.
If you have to tell an employer you're part of this industry or community, do it with pride.
Absolutely.
If you receive some temporary negative backlash, losing a job, losing a friend, losing a family member, I would say let it be.
Yeah.
Not to quote Wayne's World, but if she spews.
Or the Beatles.
But if you let it go and it comes back, it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best things that I can relate it to is literally, well, what would you do if somebody came to you and said, hey, I think I'm going to switch religions, or hey, I think I'm gay, or hey, I think I'm something else that's controversial.
Yeah.
How would you treat it? How would you react to it?
It's kind of, well, I hope that's what you really want, or I hope.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Well, good for you.
I
wish you the best.
I mean, if my daughter one day when she was older came to me and said, I think I'm a lesbian, how would I treat her? Or how would I want
Hopefully
her?
not any different.
Right. Or how would I want her treated by the world? And for the most part, what I would want from anybody is just, well, what are you doing to make society better? It's kind of the bottom line question that I have with with kind of anything. How is it making things better? And when, a couple of years ago, people were highly angered about the Amendment 64, even though they were very supportive of legalization, because they felt like Amendment 64 was not truly giving a legalization. It was not true legalization, so therefore we shouldn't even accept any part of it unless it was all or none.
A little bit of progress at a time. I mean, look at the first state to pass medical cannabis laws was California. Even now, they don't have a fully regulated state centralized system of regulation there. They have systems of cooperatives and loose organizations of people who buy and sell from one another, who take care of patients, which has slowly evolved into some of their cities that have made temporary dispensary statutes, which led the way for other states like Colorado and Washington and Oregon and Arizona to pass their own medical statutes. And little by little, it all comes together. And finally, there was a state in 2009 that decided, we're not going to force the medical marijuana scene to be underground anymore. We're going to create a legal and regulated industry for medical dispensaries, and that was Colorado. And they've slowly tweaked it and tailored it and tried to keep it very well regulated from seed to sale, which is an improvement on some of the other statutes that were passed in other states. So you're absolutely right. It's not, there's never going to be one fix that's going to be the perfect Band-Aid and that's going to fix everything. It's a little bit at a time.
It was 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago now when I guess confessed to my mom what I'm doing. She kind of already knew in a sense, but I just straight up said, this is what I do. This is what I'm involved in. This is why I do it. And these are my reasons. And that was that. And when I meet other people now and they ask me what they do, I have a choice. Speaking of holding on to other part-time jobs, anytime somebody asks me what you do, I have a choice of at least 3 different things I can tell them. I'm involved in 3 different companies. So at any one time, I can choose to present myself as one way or the other. And I'm ashamed to admit there's been many times where I've chosen the other companies that are less controversial to say, well, this is what I'm involved in. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Media.
It's funny that you mentioned that. So I was recently at a wedding, and I prepared for family. It was a cousin of mine that got married, so I was prepared for family to ask me what I was doing. And the first person asked me, and I don't know, just out of instinct, I told him I was working at a financial company in the IT department, and immediately I stepped back and I was like, whoa. That's not my real job. And so, the rest of the wedding, I was, on the ball. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. It's, I feel ashamed when I do it because I'm always the first person to preach, step forward, don't be ashamed, say blah, blah, blah. And then when I find myself doing it, I always go, well, why did I do that? Especially to this person who I could care less about. It's like, absolutely. It's always the people I could care less about that I find myself. Maybe it's just out of ease that I don't want to get into the conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just easier to say, well, I'm with a media company and we do marketing, media type stuff. It's a short, sweet conversation and it almost ends the conversation. You tell somebody, well, actually, I'm trying to start, some cannabis type projects and I host
there's
radio
100
show.
questions after that.
Right.
Or a condemnation, one of the two.
And it gets long and drawn out and then you get defensive or you get too much the other way. So I think maybe that's what it is. It's easier just to tell somebody the easy answer.
Yeah.
I work for a financial company. I'm doing media stuff.
Yeah.
Conversation over. Nobody looks at you twice. When they think of you in the future, they probably don't even remember what you told them what you do. So I guess maybe I should take my own advice and not try to get myself in those situations. But I do need to be a little more proactive and not be, and ashamed is not the right word because I am not ashamed at all to tell people I'm involved in cannabis. This is what I do. Even the one other person that I work for that's not my company, I'm not at all ashamed to say this is what I do. And even if I were to lose my job, to me it would almost feel like a martyr in a sense. Yeah. Like, well, there you go. I'm one of the many that are to come of people who are going to be affected. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait for more stories to come out.
Yeah, the more people that are willing to choose the road less taken and really just open up about working in the cannabis industry, well, the more that happens, the more that forces corporations to reevaluate what are their priorities.
I would like to think that I'm judged based on the quality of the content I produce, not necessarily
The topic.
the topic, right? Or how I look or my person, like everybody. I mean, you just want to be judged on what you're doing by
As a
quality,
person, yeah.
not necessarily what it is. If you're a defense attorney and you're representing somebody who shouldn't be represented, does that make you a scumbag?
I mean, those people deserve due process too.
Right? I mean, if you're financially advising somebody who maybe doesn't deserve to be financially advised, I mean, whose responsibility is it to step up and judge somebody else? I mean, I don't want to get biblical or religious, but I think in just a core human nature. What do you think of my radio show? Not what it's about. Well, maybe a little bit about what it's about, but what do you think just of the quality? That's what I want people looking at. Is it a show that is interesting? Is it educational? Is it
maybe you're not interested in the industry, but do you at least learn interesting information that you might not have otherwise been exposed to?
Right. I mean, that would be the ideal dream, I guess, is that I could tell somebody, hey, I do a show. Take a listen. Whether you're interested or not, just take a listen as if you were flipping through the channels on a radio. I mean, every channel you land on, does it have to be your music, the stuff you're into and that you're going to go out to the club on Friday night and dance to? Or can you just flip through and stumble across a song, judge it for the quality of the song, and then move on?
Yeah.
If you're going through talk radio, do you have to be a right or a left, or can you just say, oh, this is a good show, this is not a good show? And I don't know. I think we're probably a long way away from that type of true...
we're moving there slowly.
There's a lot of people out there who are just hateful and almost intentionally trying to make things worse in society.
They absolutely are. I mean, look at the recent, almost international, definitely national media hype around the supposed high-profile edibles-related deaths in Colorado. I mean, I'm not saying that edibles may or may not have been involved, but I highly doubt that was the only factor involved. But that's what's presented to us as this is it. They ate these edibles and this happened.
We're talking about the guy that jumped out of the window at the hotel.
Yeah, the young college student from Wyoming, and then the guy who shot his wife while she was on the phone with 911 for 13 minutes or something like that. I mean, I don't know all the details of either of those cases, but I don't think that all the facts are presented with equal bias.
Well, I mean, the facts of what was in the system, was it purely cannabis? My bet is there was alcohol involved.
Or, pharmaceutical medications, psychotropic medications.
I mean, there seems to always be alcohol involved when bad things happen. And definitely mixing alcohol and pharmaceuticals is a disaster. But, the whole correlation causation thing.
Yeah.
When you're reporting these stories, are you telling us that the individual only consumed cannabis, nothing else?
I mean, even at a higher level than that, think about those are two high-profile deaths that have been attributed to cannabis. In how long of cannabis use? Since for a couple thousand years? I mean, it's really, and then if you really want to make a comparison, compare it to alcohol, which is completely, how many, even just say since the beginning of legalization, or even just since January 1st, when you could walk into a store and buy it as an adult who's
today,
21.
I would just compare it today. How many people right now are dying somewhere as a result of alcohol? Right now, whether crashing in a car, dying of cirrhosis, beating somebody.
How many underage college students die from consuming alcohol their first or second year of college because they're just not experienced with it? It's just like presenting a snapshot and just saying that's it, and then there's no context. So what are you comparing it to?
And it is, I mean, without beating a dead horse of where people go, yeah, we know already, but it is the culture of celebrating alcohol. I mean, how many companies have you seen or been around who have celebrated, the Friday night drinks, or, hey, let's do lunch and don't forget the drinks kind of deal, where it's there. You come to work on Monday and you're looking pale and red-eyed and somebody jokingly says, long weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does that imply? It implies you got shit-faced somewhere and now you're hungover. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, and you also don't see after each of those incidents, or any time there's some type of death that's related to alcohol, you don't see public outrage over the liquor companies didn't label their product correctly and that nobody knew that they shouldn't consume that much. I mean, it's just, you're right. It's just a double standard of how we treat the two things in society.
So how would we combat this? I mean, maybe there's no legal way to combat it, right? Maybe you have absolutely no legal standing whatsoever to come back against being forced out of a job, even though they never directly said, we're asking you to leave.
Yeah, of course not. I definitely don't.
How can we combat this from just a guerrilla standpoint, like a guerrilla tactics?
And I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that, the more people that are willing to just come out and say, this is what I do, this is the industry that I'm a part of, I consume cannabis on the weekend, whatever it may be, that slowly changes the public perception of it, at which point, then, like I said, a company could theoretically say, oh, you had a beer on Friday after you left the office. We don't want that type of person working for us. They're well within their right to make that decision. The question is, who's going to work for them?
Right.
And they're going to come to that realization as cannabis use and involvement in the cannabis industry becomes more prevalent and more widely accepted. They'll face the same dilemma.
The idea of you'll have to shoot us all kind of deal.
Exactly. So, it's one thing if somebody shows up to work drunk a bunch of times, then you can say this person was obviously intoxicated on the job and fire them for that. And I mean, I don't know all the employment law behind that, so don't necessarily quote me on that. But if they use the reason of this person had a beer on Friday night and we don't want that type of person working for us, if they use that to get rid of one person, then you're right. They then have to do that to everybody who works for the company who they suspect of consuming alcohol on the weekend.
Or like if we could SimCity create the situation that happened and do it again, it would be people joining together. It would be you submitting you're working for another business, them saying we don't approve, and then 20 other people putting in their submissions also.
I'm just saying, by the way, we also do the same thing.
Exactly, right?
You'll
have to shoot us all kind of deal, 20, 30, whatever the number is.
Throughout the entire state or, wherever it is, the more it's pushed a little bit, the more accepted it becomes. And think about where cannabis, public perception of cannabis was in the 90s. It was not very high, and it was almost the height of, drug war propaganda against, marijuana is gonna kill your children, and whatever. You guys have all seen the ridiculous anti-drug campaigns.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, I grew up in the late 80s and 90s, so I remember the smashing of the egg with the frying pan.
Yeah, this is your brain on drugs.
The girl on the bicycle being smashed coming out of McDonald's by the car that was so smoke filled that you couldn't even see out of it. Yeah, I remember all the great commercials and propaganda campaigns. But I mean, I would like to almost have kind of a small list of 5 or 10 things that individuals could do to combat these situations. Like what happens when you're pulled into an office with an employer and you're directly questioned about something within the cannabis industry, almost a preparation, like the little cards we were talking about. What do you do when you get pulled over by a police officer, asking if you're detained and can I go? Almost in a similar situation of what do you actually admit? What are you obligated to admit? What do you have to tell employers if you're not part of a corporation that has disclosure?
I mean, like I said, I don't have any type of legal education. I guess if they question me about my cannabis use, I would say something along the lines of, I don't break any laws when I'm at work or when I'm not at work.
Right. That's good.
That's
so keeping it specific to the situation. That would be a good pointer, I'd say. Yeah. And again, we're obviously not lawyers and we're not trying to give lawyer advice. We're trying to give real, just kind of some guerrilla tactics to combat.
Just like, I don't break any laws on the weekend or when I'm at work.
Maybe also being a good employee from the start.
And maybe redirecting the question towards counter with another question. Is my work quality being called into question or something along those lines?
So you're the boss. I'm the employee. You call me into your office and you try to confront me.
So, you smoke cannabis?
I don't do anything at work that's illegal. Are you unhappy with my work, with the quality?
See, now I have to address your work quality. And if you're a good employee, then you really just turn the table on. I mean, I don't know. I didn't ever have to get into that, but.
Well, I mean, like anything else, when you have something of value, I think a good relation would be to sports, right? If you're good, you can literally kill someone and get away with it. Right?
Pretty much, yes.
Until you're not in the zone anymore.
Yeah.
When you're no longer, quote unquote, good, all of a sudden there's no protection for you. And I think that's the same way, that if you're going to be involved in this industry and you're going to smoke daily before work or after work, just not at work, be prepared to defend yourself by what you do at work.
The quality of your work.
Right. So if you're in...
And, that doesn't even necessarily apply to just working in the corporate world. And even the work we do here, if, somebody decides to smoke, whatever, that's their choice. But nobody's going to say anything until somebody starts slacking off or they're not doing their work. And that's really how a company should be. And not just with smoking, but in general with, you can kind of do what you want if you get your work done.
Exactly, and that would be the ideal world also.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of this is just lawyers, probably covering companies by all angles and cutting off potentials before they even get started, which is kind of a shame, but it's understandable. I mean, it's if I were in charge of a few $1 billion, I would want things locked up. I would want everything down to a T, from paperwork and everything else. From the owner, I can understand that. As a human, I have to step back and go, but then what are we really doing? What are we really? I don't know. I think in your case, this is going to come out for the best.
Absolutely.
I think you've already won, in the sense, because you quit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I made my decision,
which is a win. When you quit, it's a win, right? It's like the old scenes from the movies. You get fired and then quickly turn around and say, I quit, before they fire you. So I think it's already a win in the sense that they didn't fire you, which means all you have is just a year experience on a resume at a financial institution. And then you went off and started your own company. And I think if nothing else happens, that in itself is a pretty good look on paper, that you left school, you got a job. Maybe you could have stayed longer, but you stayed at least a year, and then you went and started your own company. On paper, what could look better?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there came a time when the development of my professional career and my career as an entrepreneur just came to a crossroads, and something probably a lot of people, not just in this industry, but in anybody who's ever considered or tried to make a startup happen, they've probably faced this dilemma at one point or another, and we all make a decision, and I'm pretty happy with the one I made.
But so let's summarize it all with basically the main message that we brought. Don't be ashamed. Doesn't mean you have to run around on the streets and advertise it, but don't be ashamed. Do good quality work. I think that's the most important. Just think about, like I said, any high profile athlete, or even CEOs of companies. I'm sure many of them. Steve Jobs is very open about his cannabis use, but nobody questioned the quality of his work. He had a bunch of failed products or whatever it may be, and then people might be like, oh, Steve, maybe you need to slow down on the smoking. But that never happened. So I think that's really what the best message is just do good work. All right, so we'll turn those around. So number one, do good work.
Yeah, there you go.
Number two, don't be ashamed. And number three, have something on the back burner.
Yeah.
Have that B-roll waiting, so if you do end up losing your main gig, it's not a life-crushing experience. It's just a temporary transition to something else that's already there. Good three rules, or
I think so.
Is there a fourth one we should add?
No, I think that about covers it.
Good quality work. Don't be ashamed. Have something on the back burner. Great. Excellent. Well, I think that's enough. Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to have more guests lined up, speaking with dispensary owners, growers, business owners. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Kush Common, Google+. You can listen to our shows live from the website or your preferred listening platform. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, even YouTube, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.